Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and my guest today is a licensed professional counselor with over 20 years of experience working with children, teens, and young adults. She is also the author of With Love from a Children's Therapist. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing Stacy Schaefer to the show. Welcome to The Release Valve, Stacy.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, I really appreciate you coming on and reaching out to me and letting me know that you were willing to come on. And especially with the work that you do, I was very excited to have you come on. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I love talking about it. Definitely lean towards extroversion, so here we are.
That's awesome. So what first pulled you towards working specifically with kids and teens and young adults as opposed to grown adults?
Yeah. Well, I did not have the greatest childhood, and I remember thinking, surely there are adults who know what they're doing. I don't know any, but surely they must exist, right? Because it's a really big world and we've had a lot of things built. Somebody must know what's going on. And so, as I grew up, I just always thought, I wish there was somebody that like I could talk to
Mm,
that I didn't have the exact verbiage for it. I wasn't like a safe place to land, but like I definitely craved that support because that's a valid need.
mm,
And so when I was old enough, I'm like, oh, it's the people at the beginning of their lives that deserve the support they're not getting. And
mm.
so it's more involved than that, obviously, but that's kind of the Reader's Digest version.
That's amazing. I love that mindset. I love when somebody is able to take on their life experiences and turn it into I mean, yeah, becoming the person that you needed when you were younger, right?
Yes, that. As the kids would say. I don't know how old your kids are, but if they're doing that yet.
11 and 8, almost
Oh, so
12.
we're clocking it then. That was
Absolutely.
definitely that earned a clock it.
Mm. Yeah, it's huge. I think so many kids I mean, you have so many emotions as a kid that you just don't understand, and you look to the adults in your life as that kind of guide to, you have no idea what the world is and how it's made and what's going on. You have these feelings that you've never felt before and you don't understand. And it's not always easy to express those feelings to those people because a lot of times as adults, especially I understand I'm a parent, it's very easy for us to get caught up in the world that we are living in and not exactly know how to show up for those little ones. We already have that understanding of how things are, and not everybody has the capability of breaking things down, slowing things down, and then breaking it down to a level that a young child can understand. And so doing the work that you do, that being your primary focus and having that understanding of what it was that you needed when you were a kid and then now providing that as an adult. I think that's so huge. So I commend you on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, well, all of my friends who are therapists for adults, they're always talking about the things that people are bringing to them are what? From their childhood.
Right.
And so the tagline for a long time in the world was children are resilient. Like what if they didn't have to be? Like what if they
Mm,
didn't need to build that? What if I mean that was something, obviously life is hard. You've been outside. But what if it didn't have to be as hard? And so I like to think I'm giving kids like skills that's gonna help them when life is still hard. They're gonna but maybe a little less traumatic than previous generations.
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know so many people that they have an understanding that whatever a child is going through isn't the end of the world. You're gonna be fine. You're just move past it, stop thinking about it. But if you aren't able to process those feelings and emotions and have an understanding of them, that will then turn into something that you carry throughout your life. And it does turn into something that you end up not being fine from. And
Yeah.
you're so right. As adults, a lot of the things that we are working through with therapists or psychiatrists, psychologists, all the different ists, it's the like you said, the stuff from our past, the stuff that we didn't process properly as children or young adults or teenagers or whatever the case is. I know so many people, myself included, the especially like the high school years were so prominent and had such a lasting effect on our minds and our emotions that it's hard to move past a lot of those things that we went through back then.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah. Somebody was a young adult was talking to me today about a challenging relationship in their life. And I stopped them and I said, how old does that behavior that the person is exhibiting? How old does that sound to you? And they're like 10. And I'm like, the likelihood of development being interrupted at that age is really high. Not that they are not responsible for it now as adults, but it gives you a little insight because that response doesn't seem adult appropriate. And so
Mm.
like that's how it leaks out sideways when people are like, I'm fine. I never talked to one. Are you fine? Are you? I don't
Right.
know if the people around you would say that you're fine. And so, like, I like to help kids on the younger end so that some of that just doesn't leak out in ways they don't want it to.
Mm. Oh, that's big. I like that. I like that. So your practice is called Strong Hearts. I love that name. But what does that mean? Where did that come from?
Yeah. And I like shifted some of that into because my name is kind of catchy, Stacey Schaefer Counseling, so it like goes with that. But I think like resilience like is my personal favorite attribute, like of my own. And I'm like what is it that has been developed in me? I'm like it's my heart. Like it's been through quite a lot.
Mm.
And I'm pretty proud of it, that like it is in fact strong. It's like, I don't want to say like the like wounded heart or resilient heart because that like implies that like we're thankful for the brokenness. And that's
Mm.
not what I'm saying with that. Like I think strong that it's like it's earned. It is a muscle that has been used.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I love that twist on it. I love that thought process behind that because you're so right. It acknowledges the things that you went through without wearing those exact things as a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I
Yes.
went through this and I did that, and and you identify yourself as the person that went through all these hardships. No, I identify as the person that made it out the other side, the one that is
Yes.
strong, the one that is resilient and capable. And I think that's huge. It's okay to acknowledge the things that we've gone through, but that's not the thing that we should focus on. We should focus on how strong we are, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like I'm not like being thankful for like trauma. Like stop that. Like
Right.
no, I mean like it happened and I'm bigger than it. But I'm not thankful I went through that. I wouldn't choose it.
Right,
And
exactly.
like, I did not sign up for that, and, I take, like, issue people are like, "We decided long ago." You can believe that, but I didn't get in line for this life, but you better believe, like, I'm gonna, like, earn the hell out of my strong heart title.
Oof, I love it. I absolutely love that. That's amazing. I think that that's the right focus. And a lot of people do focus on the negatives. And like I said, they wear that as a badge of honor. They again identify and create their identity and ultimately their ego
Mhm.
around those things and instead of just focusing on the positives. Again, I've talked about this before. There's a difference between saying something as anti-war or saying pro-peace.
Yeah, yeah, there's different.
Right. Anti-war, you're saying a double negative. Anti and war. Those are two bad things. Those are two negative things. And you think you're saying it in the sense of something positive. I'm anti-war. I don't like war, which is fine. I get it. But it says so much more about your mindset and how you view things when you say pro-peace.
Yeah. It's like half empty, half full, you
Right.
know?
Right. The
Like, I always
opposite.
like to say, "I feel safer when my gas tank is half full." Like, I don't say it the other way.
Right. Right. Yeah. I get nervous when my gas tank is half empty. No, I feel good when it's half full.
Yeah.
I like that. So we kind of mentioned it a little bit, touch base on it, and but one of the things that you said when I was looking into said you can't take someone somewhere you haven't been willing to go yourself, and I absolutely love that. How has your own life experiences shaped how you approach your work and the things that you do today?
Yeah, like, daily, really, but, I specialize in grief, and my mom died when I had just turned 22,
Mm,
and she was my last living relative, so I know about something about grief.
wow. Yeah.
And so I think, in doing my own, I mean, just that alone, doing my own work around that, and just like, oh, and in reality, my mom had a really long battle with breast cancer,
Ugh.
and that there's so many complicated emotions like related to that, and
Hmm.
when you're 22, like you're, and my mom, she had just turned 49. She was young, and
Wow.
so there's still going to be continued feelings about that, and I think if I wasn't able to, like, honestly talk about that, um, it would then impact my ability to be effective to hold the right amount of space, for kids.
Mm,
Because, like, I haven't done them in a while since I no longer want to sleep in a bunk bed. But I was a camp counselor at a lot of grief camps. I served my time, and when the children's bereavement field, people don't just land there as like clinicians or volunteers. Like there's a reason, right?
hmm.
And so everyone has a story. And so it's kind of expected, like when you're in the group, like, hi, my name is Stacy. My mom died of breast cancer, like whatever. And everyone goes around. And what I started to do quite often in those circles, in grief groups or camps, was I would, when it was time for emotions, I would always, and I still, if it came up, offer the emotion relief, because I did feel relief. My mom, like, had 17 surgeries. Like, she had a really, really long, hard battle, and, of course, that's not the only emotion, but, that one appeared to be really taboo, so I offered that up as, like, an open door for kids who, like, they might have had that emotion as well.
Mm.
So that, like, they could be like, yeah, like, it doesn't, and I mean, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a real person, that, that's one of the things. And I think if I couldn't own that I was like, no, that's horrible. I only felt sad, like that would not make me as safe of a place as it would be if I can integrate my story.
Mm. I think that that's so huge. And again, the right mindset, and it's a growth mindset. I I'm sincerely sorry that you had to go through that type of loss. It doesn't matter what age or how, if we see it coming a mile away or if we're blindsided by it, that level of loss is never easy. So my heart goes
Mhm.
out to you, and especially being at a younger age. Again, at 22, you're just getting to the point to where you're gonna start experiencing real world things, real life things, and finding out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you're capable of, what you want to do, what you want to pursue, all these things. And then to have that type of a blow that really can derail you,
Mhm.
and completely change the trajectory of the path that you were heading down, because now you have to deal with what just happened and discover all new things. And again, it's never, there's never a good time, there's never a good age to experience that level of loss. um but to, like I said, to have that growth mindset and to know, kind of self-assess who, what's going on with you, what is it that you're feeling, why you're feeling this way, and then what you can do about those feelings, and then eventually reach a point to where you can then be there for other people, and not just be there in the sense of, oh, I've gone through something like that too, and yep, so hard, worst time of my life. No, you can help people navigate those feelings, because yeah, that is a horrible thing to go through, but life doesn't end there. Your feelings don't end there. Your experiences don't end there. That's unfortunately, time waits for no one, and it continues moving on. So you have to figure out how to navigate through that, how to, again, process those feelings that you're going through, have an understanding of it, so that way you can move past it properly. I think that's so big, and again, it says a lot about you to to turn things around, like I said, and be there for somebody else in the ways that you could have used somebody in your life to have there for you. Is this something that you've always known that you wanted to do? Is this type of work, or is this something that you just, because of the things that you've gone through and how you worked through it, you just kind of found yourself heading down that path? Like, where did this come from?
Yeah. Well, there's pictures of me as a little girl, counseling a group of Care Bears. They all worked it out except for Grumpy Bear, 'cause you have to be willing, can't
Yeah.
force someone. And so, like, I always kind of found myself in, like, in helper roles, and I think that so much of that was unhealthy coping because it's easier, to help
Mm.
other people. And so as I began to, like, heal and do my own work, like, it came from a better place,
Mm.
I would say. But yeah, I always, like, kind of anticipated myself in some kind of, I didn't know the term social work, but like in some kind of field like that was actually helping people. I really identified with Miss Honey in Matilda. That was like, like the safe place. And so when my mom, she was dying, I didn't know that there was like a like children's bereavement field. So I could have used support from a young adult group, but I didn't know it existed.
Right.
And so I would say, how I landed in my exact field, like, was a trajectory of things, but definitely wanted to be in the helping professions at some capacity for
Mm.
sure. My mom was a dental hygienist, so I can tell you I didn't want to do teeth because I thought that was gross and weird.
Right,
So
yeah.
I knew at an early age what I didn't want to do.
I think that's big too. That's just as almost as important as knowing what you want to do is knowing what you don't want to do. And I know I've known so many people to go to school for things because that's what they thought they wanted to do. And then after all the money is spent and they're in debt and all these things, they end up not even doing anything like that, so and it wasn't anything that they actually did want to do. They just found themselves going down that path. So I think it's just as important to know what you don't want to do in life and know to stay away from that, not just doing it because, oh, well, that's what, so and so did, my mom did, or, whoever. And I figured, why not? It seems simple enough. So I think that's big.
Mhm.
One of the things you said that you specialize in kids grief, doing specializing in grief work with kids. Have you noticed a difference in how kids grieve versus how adults grieve? Like, what is that difference?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So the children's bereavement field, I would say, is still fairly new, like 30, 40 years old,
Mm.
because the term that we used to call kids basically was the forgotten mourners. So it was like kind of back to that idea of kids being resilient. That the kids, their kids are fine. Yeah, yeah, they'll bounce back.
Right.
And like, there has to be some truth to that because what are your other choices, right? Like, you carry on. But they did like research in rehabs and in jails, and they found, you can find whatever you want based on a research study, but they found with this particular one that like 90% of the people surveyed in those populations had an unresolved significant grief issue in their childhood. And so, like, a mom, dad, caregiver, significant person died, and that they were like, it's sad, you go to the funeral, then you move on. But like that the buildup of whatever they were experiencing was never addressed.
Hmm.
And so I think that we have with so many things, we have so much more awareness now that we're like, oh, yeah, like, grief is really hard to deal with. Now imagine being 8, and
Right.
having some of those significant things, like, but not having room to talk about it.
Mm.
And so it manifests different, in kids. And, kids are often known to have grief bursts. So they'll have like this like big emotion and then they'll be like, "Hey, can we go to the trampoline park?" and then because their brains can't hold capacity that long, but they're experiencing the same things we are, it just lands different.
Yeah, we as adults probably tend to dwell more. We have a not as short attention span, so we kind of sit on those emotions a lot longer, let
Yeah.
them recycle a lot more. Whereas a kid, shiny object, oh, over here, okay, cool, I'm distracted
Yeah.
by it,
Yeah.
but they do come back to it.
Sure. Yeah, they do, and, like, what I've always loved in the, kids bereavement world, there's in lots of major cities, there's, like, a children's bereavement center. I don't know, I think that's a California flag, right? Is that what's behind you? Like, is that where you are?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
like and so, like, in the Denver area, where I am, there's, like, a children's bereavement center called Judy's House, and, it's named after, uh former Bronco player's mom who died when he was a kid, Judy. And
Okay.
one of the rules in every like children's bereavement center, there's a similar rule, but one of the rules is like it's always like okay to cry, but it's always okay to laugh. And
Mm.
that's a significant role because if you would think if you're not familiar with the field that these kind of places are like super sad and they're not. That they're just safe and people feel understood. And it's okay that someone made you laugh. It doesn't mean you miss your dad any less. Like it
Right.
means that sometimes things are funny. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's really, really important for kids to to know that they don't have to be one certain way in order to be grieving.
Ooh, I love that, and I think that's so huge. I think it's an extremely important lesson for a kid to learn and understand, but I think that transcends to adults too. Like that
Yes, for
that
sure.
that's a huge thing because again, because something happens, we feel like, especially when it comes to, being around other people, we feel like that we need to, I don't want to call it a facade, but we need to conduct ourselves in a certain way because of something that we just went through. I have
Totally.
this loss, so I'm very sad right now. Like I don't want to talk, I don't want to laugh, I don't want to, it's like, no, I think it's healthy for you to, yeah, like you said, it doesn't mean that you aren't feeling the things that you're feeling because you had a moment of laughter, or vice versa. If you're happy and then you have a moment of, crying or whatever, like it's okay to let out those emotions. I think that's
Mhm.
the biggest thing that people need to understand, again, all ages, that it's okay to feel what you're feeling at whatever given moment. Feelings are a natural human reaction based off of any given situation at any hand at hand at any time, and we need to stop suppressing those feelings. It's okay
Yeah.
to laugh. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be serious. It's okay to be silly. Like whatever it is, whatever you're feeling at that moment, go with that. I think it does more damage to try to, this is not the time, this is not the place, I can't do it. Not like, no, feel it, express
Yeah.
it.
Well, the amount of times I've said to kids things like, they're like, "I'm sorry, I'm crying," and I'm like, "We don't apologize for crying in counseling." But how many times I've said something similar to, "Do you understand that you having this experience right now means that you're not going to explode on somebody in the workforce and not know why?" And like,
Right.
that you are dealing with things that are gonna get dealt with one way or another, but you're in control right now. You
Mm.
get to to change the narrative of how you feel as opposed to being like, I'm sorry, boss, I don't know why I exploded on so and so for whatever reason.
Right, right.
Oh,
Again, I mean, that's why this show is called the release valve. I think everybody needs to be able to
yes.
hit that release valve, let out some of that pressure. Because yeah, if you suppress it over here, it's gonna come out over here. And when it comes out over here, because that's not the right time or place for it, you're gonna have that moment of panic. Oh no, why is this happening? I'm so sorry. I don't know why that just came out right now. Well, I know why, because you didn't deal with it over here when you should have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, kids are they've said to me stuff like, um, like, what does passive aggressive mean? Because they'll hear whatever. And I'm like, have you ever had someone like they're slamming doors, but they're saying they're not really mad? And I'm like, that is like, I took it. I want you to know why you're slamming the door.
Right.
that like I think there's just so much power in being aware.
Mhm.
And that is like my hope for kids that and teens and young adults I see that they have more insight into their human condition. As like, I told a teenager the other day, I was like, just so you know, you're actually not perfect. And it is harming yourself to put an unrealistic standard
Mm.
on yourself. You're really not perfect. You're really great and you do great things and like you strive to be an excellent human, but I can see you're not perfect. And the
Right.
sooner you can integrate that into your reality, the easier it's going to be.
100%. 100%. I think that, again, that's so important. Nobody's perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. And just because you're not perfect doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. I
No,
think that's a big thing too. People think that because they're not perfect, there must be something wrong with me. Like you were saying before about adults, and I know I had the same exact feeling growing up. And it wasn't until maybe these past 10 years that I started realizing this, that nobody has any idea what they're doing. I thought that when I was a kid, everybody else knew what was going on. They had some sort of cheat code or guidebook or something that was guiding them through everything. They knew everything that was going on, and that there was something wrong with me because I was clueless. I had no idea. There must be something wrong with me. And yeah, the sooner that you realize that nobody's perfect, nobody has any idea what they're doing. Some people are just better at rolling with the punches and working on the fly than others. But just because you're not as good at somebody at that as somebody else doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. And the sooner that you can realize that, that's why I love that you're doing the work that you're doing with the younger people, younger generation of people. It's so important to learn these things at a younger age before you become programmed into thinking that yeah, there's you have to be perfect. You have to be on top of your game at all times, and if you're not, there's something wrong with you.
no, totally. And that's why like I try to be really down to earth with kids. Like they're like, you don't understand, you're perfect. And I'm like, I met with your grand therapist on Tuesday, and I'm pretty confident that she could tell you I'm not perfect and I don't want to be. And I was like, get me off that pedestal.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
life is hard. Like, we all deserve support. And I'm like, and so I like see her so that I can be better for you. And I'm like, but ultimately better for me. It makes life easier to have the support that you deserve and need
Mm,
for sure.
absolutely, 100%. So dealing with children, teens, young adults, and obviously, and I can speak this from experience, I had very involved parents that were very there for me. I didn't know how to go to them for these type of things, but they definitely wanted to be there for me. If I did have things that I wanted to talk about, they would have listened to me to the best of their capability and tried to work things out the best that they could. But just because you have, and this is no slight towards my parents, this is just a generic statement. Just because you have parents that want to be involved, want to help, want to do those things, doesn't always mean that they're doing the right things for you. What are some of those well-meaning adults out there that are trying to be involved with their kids? What is it that they're getting wrong when they're trying to help a grieving child?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that is like a really good point, and I try to on my social media, like I've started a thing called Script Wednesdays, where like here's some things like that are things to dialogue to actually say to your kids. Um, I think what is really hard for parents, well-intentioned parents, in this world, is that they have kids who are growing up in a world that is different than the world they grew up in. And
Mm,
so a lot of times parents will try to what I've observed will try to connect by saying, I was a kid once too. Well, you were, but you didn't have to deal with social media and the impact of like online bullying.
mm,
You didn't, if you're in America, you didn't have to deal with the fear every day of school violence. Like, you did not have to deal with, like, seeing all of your friends, on an app like, like Find My Friends or Life 360 all your friends together at a Starbucks and you are not there, that it's
Mm,
a different world. And so it I think that it's tricky because and it'll be a different world in 20 years. You know,
right.
that it is it's a different world that they're navigating as teenagers than their parents did. And so I think that that's hard to when like kids hear I was a kid once too, they're just like whatever, you don't get it because they were in a different universe,
Mm,
than the one that these kids are trying to navigate, which isn't their fault. They were born in 1980, like
right.
not their fault.
Right. Yeah, no, that's huge. That's such a good point. I think we, again, well-intentioned, we want to let them know that we've experienced life too and we survived, we're okay. But like you said, it's a completely different world. So many different factors that are put into play that we have no experience with. We didn't experience those things. And I remember, yeah, Columbine was like the craziest thing ever. Like I didn't
Mhm.
know people were capable of that. And now, gosh, how many school shootings and public
Yeah.
places shootings and all that type of stuff have gone on in the past 10, 15, 20 years? It's insane.
Uh,
Unfortunately, the scariest thing is that it's become like a normal thing. We hear that next shooting and we're like, oh, here we go again.
I know.
We
Well,
have no
yeah,
idea what that was like when we were that age. We're adults and experiencing that, and we know how crazy that is. Try being a kid going through that and having
totally.
that type of fear. Is this going to happen at my school? And we're like, no, no. But the truth is,
Sure.
we
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 don't
don't
know.
know. It could happen.
No.
How do we respond to that? We can't deal with
And
that, so we got to try to, shoo that off. Let's brush that over here and not deal with that because that's going to be way too hard of a conversation.
well, yeah, and Columbine is actually in the school district that I'm in,
Mm,
like that I live in, that my office is in.
oof.
And so there's, like I've seen kids that go there that are like, it's weird, the memorials and that they have teachers who were there then, that are jumpy.
Wow. Yeah.
And we in our school district, not at Columbine, but in the same school district, we had a school shooting on September 10th. And so I did a video about this once because um, that about how I was kind of in the wrong by assuming like a kid bounded in really young elementary. And I was like, oh, that there was a school shooting today. Did you know it? They were like, it was like the angry kid kind, not the bad man kind. And I was like, I wonder if that was really scary for you. And they were like, it's Wednesday.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And like, what? And then because kids in bursts, they're like, "Can we do the Minecraft toys?" And like, that it like that is their frame of reference. And kids all that week were saying, and I saw kids that were at that school, and they were like, it was just a matter of time.
Oh, man.
And so that's different, right? Like that their nervous system, and I wrote about that in my book, that their little nervous systems are getting dysregulated going to school in a way that, we did not worry about. We worried about different things, but I like never once worried about my safety like that.
Right.
And that is their norm. And it makes me want to stand on like tables and scream that's
Right.
and I don't see any kids who at this, day and age have not experienced a lifetime of lockdown drills. Like that's what they
Right.
know.
Right.
And they like talk about the different kinds of candy that the different teachers give them to keep quiet during lockdown drills.
Wow. Oh, man. Again, as an adult, being able to look at those type of situations, that makes that makes me so sad.
Right?
Like, oh, and they don't even
It's so
realize it. They're just so
yeah.
accustomed to that's just the way things
No.
are. Again, completely oblivious to life without that. And we can look at that situation because we had it very different, and we can see how wrong that is. But to them, it's just Wednesday.
When school starts in August, September, 100% kids will come in here and they'll tell me about their teacher that they like, their if they're in, like, middle or high school, the teachers that they like, and 100% they will tell me that they have located where to hide in every classroom. And so they're like, "Yeah." So, like, first week of school, that's what they're all thinking about. They're like, "Okay," and they're like and they think about what to wear because if they wear light up shoes, it could give them away.
Oh,
This is the stuff I'm
man.
hearing about every day, all day, and it's like and it's really distressing, but to them, like, I try really hard not to put my emotion on them, like,
Right.
that's stressful because to them, Wednesday.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's so hard. Again, yeah, being an adult, trying not to insert your influence of thoughts and feelings around that situation and not cause a panic or an anxiety into a kid that it doesn't already exist. That must be so hard to navigate. I can only imagine.
It's tricky. It makes me pretty angry,
Yeah.
like, and so, but like that there's not much to do with that anger other to empower the kids, like in the reality of their situations. But
Right.
that's the reality of kids in America. So tying back to your question, that's not what parents the what best intentioned parents don't know what that feels like. And so
Right.
I always say to parents, like, I think that it's best if you act as an engaged tourist in their world instead of being pretending that you're a local. I'm like,
Right. Or you're the guide of this this tour.
yes, that you're just like, tell me what it's like to be you. Help me understand." And that's a
Mm.
question that I like to offer a lot is like, help me understand what it's like to be you. Like I'll say that in intake, with kids, like, where tell me the experience of you. That like what is it like to be in your world? Because you are the absolute expert on you.
I I love that. I just wrote that down because I think that's
Yeah.
huge. What's it to invite me into your world? What's it like to be you?
Yes.
What are your thoughts and feelings while you're going through the things that you're going through? I think that's a huge thing for a parent to be able to really build a strong relationship with your child and really get them to think in that regard too, because yeah, they just kind of go through the motions. So if you can get them to sit back and actually be conscious of their feelings, their thoughts, and how they feel when they're going through the things that they're going through, I think that's a huge thing for them to do. A great exercise. I love that.
Yeah, it's like it's bizarro.
Yeah.
It really is. And I just think that the more awareness that we have, I created a course called Staying Connected to Your Kids in a Digital World. And there's modules, there's like three modules, but like one of that is like what are they even doing, like online? Because I think I listen at nauseum about like games and social media platform that I'm not on. Because I think that if you don't listen to your kids talk about like, let's be honest, the boring stuff, they're not going to talk to you about the bigger stuff if you're not engaged in like, it doesn't mean every moment because you can't, we're humans,
Right.
but I listen about the different things like that. And I know the platforms that they are on because it comes up so much so that when they need to confide in something deeper, they feel like I'm already a safe place to land.
No, I think that's huge. And you talked about your courses about staying connected to kids in the digital world. And do you think that that is one of the biggest factors that's pulling parents apart from their kids is not engaging in that world, in their world, and trying to be at the standpoint of where they're at and what they're used to in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that parents, and I talk about that in the course, that they don't know what to look for. Because of course like you're gonna, if you take your kid's phone, you search their stuff, like you're gonna search for obvious things, right? Like bullying, like you suck, or like,
Yeah.
like inappropriate stuff. And obviously those aren't okay either. But there are things that your kids are upset about. like being left on red for 5 hours. Where or like I referenced earlier, the Life 360 or Find My Friends, like to like look on there and see literally all your friends are hanging out without you, or someone changing a profile picture that had you in it, things like that,
Mm,
that aren't obvious. And I think that
right.
that's hard because, they're like, oh, like, things are fine, but they're not fine. And so I think it's again understanding more of what they care about in order to see what's wrong.
Mm. Yeah, again, and that's why I love that question that you had was, what's it like to be you? Invite me into your world. What are the things that you're experiencing? What are the things that you're seeing? How do you feel when you see these things? How do you feel when you read these things? What is it that you have going on? And yeah, really immersing yourself in their world and not just brushing it off because yeah, you don't have that experience
Yeah.
and you're not used to it, so you don't know how to approach it. Just ask. Just ask.
Yeah, and that's why I stay up on the latest things, because kids have less to explain to me, when they're like, like he left me on red, so I left him on delivered, and then, it's the status and I know what they're talking about because I
Hmm.
hear about it so much. And
Right,
so
right.
it's important to me to like know the language of the people.
Yeah, no, and I think that's huge. And again, it says a lot about you to want to stay up to date and stay relevant. So that way these kids do feel safe coming to you. You know what I'm talking about. I say this to my mom and she has no idea. I say this to my dad. He doesn't care. I say this to you. You understand it. You're able to speak my language. So I have more to say to somebody like you. Again, being the type of person that you would have needed when you were a kid.
Yeah, here
Uh,
we are.
I love that. So I wanted to get back and touch base a little bit on your book. You called you called your book part memoir, part manual. Was it hard for you to put your own story on the page alongside
Yeah.
your clinical work? Was that difficult, or did that just kind of flow naturally?
Yeah, it was tricky. Here's my book. It's pretty. Purple. Purple is
Ooh,
my
it is
jam.
pretty.
So yeah, because like it originally started with I'm like, there are so many things that I hear on this side of the couch that don't get translated to parents. And there's so many people that don't have the ability, time, access to get their kids into counseling. And I'm hearing a lot of universal things that don't always make it out. Like the really like serious things, like stuff on fire gets translated to parents, but stuff that kids are like, I don't want you to talk to them about it. That's a gray area. Doesn't get into the ears of people that could use it. So I thought for a long time I wanted to write a book about what I'm hearing. And then about 15 years ago or so, I started doing like my own healing work. And when I had the idea to actually write the book, I'm like, oh, I bet that there's stuff I could use from that crappy childhood that would be helpful. And I was on a podcast that she introduced my book, and it was my favorite way to describe it. But she introduced my book as a manual to not emotionally damage the next generation. And I thought that was
Mhm.
pretty great. I know.
Ooh,
That
yeah,
was
I
pretty
love
great.
that.
Yeah, and I actually flew to Nashville to do my own audiobook. So
Ooh.
that was like, actually read, which is it was shout out to Nashville Audio Productions, amazing experience. But that was, I think, more challenging than writing it, was like saying some of the things out loud. And
Mm.
I was like, oh, that because you have to do the right cadence, so otherwise it gets you have to start over. I would have to start that sentence over. And so that was tricky. But I don't speak from my open wounds. I speak from my scars. And so the stuff that, like that I'm still working through with my own therapist, like hats off to therapists, right? The stuff that I'm working through, like I'm not like bleeding out. And so
Mhm.
I think that that would make it really inappropriate and difficult. Like if it was like, I didn't want you to know that. Like I'm like the stuff that I've written about, like I've worked through in a way that it can now be used as a resource for others.
That is amazing. I love how you worded that. I speak from my scars, not from my open wounds. Because you're right. If we have that open wound that we're just bleeding all over, that can get out of hand a little bit. And you can kind of let that bleed a little too much, more than it should. The healed process, and again, that's bringing it back to what you were talking about at the beginning, strong heart, and not focusing on, yeah, the blood, the gore, the what caused the wound, all that type of stuff, and that can be way more traumatic, and that can cause a wound for somebody else, right? If you go about it that route. But speaking of, these are my scars. This is what happened. This is how I got through it. This is how I became stronger. I think again that says so much more, and will help somebody to know that there is another side that they can get to. There is
Right.
that it does heal. It is there. It is a scar. I did go through that, but I healed from it. I'm stronger because of it.
Yeah.
And this is how. This is why. Again, turning the work from the experiences that you've had and having the mindset of wanting to help other people, I think that is so amazing of you. I love when people are able to do that, because it shows the level of strength that you have. It is, it would be so easy to succumb to the things that we've had happen to us, and nobody would blame you if you became a raging alcoholic because of those things, and you drank your problems away, or had, whatever other vice that you have, to suppress those feelings and not face them head on. And people would understand, because you went through a hard time, and I get it. I think it says so much more about you. And again, the level of strength that you have to be able to heal from those things, allow yourself to heal, to have that mindset of, it's okay. Yeah, I went through what I went through, and that was horrible, but it's okay to get better. It's okay to be strong. It's okay to move on. And then in turn, it's even better to help other people do it, to climb
Mhm.
up that mountain and to look back and reach your hand out for those that are trying to climb it too. I absolutely love what you do, how you're doing it, your mindset about it. I think it's amazing. You wrote a book on it. You put your stuff on there, that like that. That's so cool to me. So kudos to you again. I commend you for the work that you're doing. I think that's amazing. When parents get a hold of your book, what's the main thing that you would want them to take away from reading it?
And thank you for all that, and that's good. I just want people who read my book to feel seen and heard. Like, one of my favorite things is, like, friends of mine that, don't plan to have kids, like, read my book, and they're like, "I got stuff from that." Like, "I felt understood at, like, this point or this point."
Hmm.
And so my ultimate goal in most things I do is, like, for people to feel seen and heard, and, like, bonus, understood. But, like, that I hope that they see themselves, like, in it, that, maybe they feel seen as the kid that they were, and, like, didn't get the
Mm,
support that they needed, right? Because, like, every, generation, you know better, you do better. And I think that a lot of support didn't exist back in, like, 20, 30 years ago in the same way that it
yeah.
does now, accessibility. Um, I and every podcast I do, every, um, interview, like, all of those things, I always think, like, if my mom had had, like, one of those, had heard a podcast that was really helpful, would everything be better? No. Would it be a little better? Yeah. Like, it'd be like,
Right.
oh, to get that nugget of wisdom. So I just hope that my book is, like, another part of that process of people having an easier journey.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, know better, do better. You don't know what you don't know, and if you don't have an understanding of the different avenues that you can take, the different tools that you can use, you can't be blamed for that. You're doing the best that you could with what you had, and I think that's it. It's so important, the work that you're doing, and then again having that book to help people. And is it going to change everything? No, but is it going to help? Yeah, I hope so. That's the goal, right? And for you to have people that personally get the book and say, "Man, I felt seen reading this," like that's huge. and so I'm definitely gonna get a copy. I can't wait. I
Thank
even
you.
wanna listen to it too because I think that's cool
It's
that you did that
me!
yourself.
It's my
Yeah,
cartoon voice.
I
It's so fun. It's me. One of my friends, when it came out, like, she pulled up and, she's like, "Do you hear what I'm listening to?" And I was like, "Ah, that's really creepy." But, like, my most favorite review on Amazon that made me sob and sob and sob, was, my safe place in high school, my favorite teacher. She was like my Miss Honey, and it is a beautiful review, and she just said, like, "I wish I had had this tool to help Stacy when she needed me most." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I was like, you're everything, like, to me." And so, but I just thought that that was really significant that she was like, "This could have been helpful," even though timelines,
yeah, but
doesn't
still, to
work don't work
know
like that.
it kinda helps to heal that inner child that, maybe didn't get through all those things. Maybe you were able to grow past it and it doesn't affect you that same way, but to know that it is out there and you could have benefited from that, I think that does help in a way,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
for
for her
sure.
to be able to express that, I think that's beautiful. I have one last question before I let you go. And you had mentioned this in one of our messages, so I want to make sure that I touch base on it. With being as busy as you are, and I know firsthand because you were jumping from this to that before you came onto here. So again, I appreciate your time. Uh, but you find the time because you have, especially in the line of work that you do, you find the time for yourself to release, pun intended. What is it that you do with that time?
Oh, I kickbox. Yeah, like, I think that, in my younger days as a clinician, that I thought lack of self-care was a flex, and I've learned that it is not. And so I absolutely have to take care of myself, otherwise, like, I'm resentful. And
Right.
so so I am a regular, at my kickboxing studio. I have a therapy dog who, is the mascot there, so Willow gets to go with me. She's
I love
fast
that.
asleep, and she has a hard life. And so
Oh,
yeah,
Willow.
she's a really she has a hard life. And so I uh-oh, did I mess it up? There you go. So I kickbox, like, usually, like, at least 4 days, 4 nights after work, and so I always say I punch back so I don't punch people.
I love that. I think that's huge. Another way of releasing that built up pressure and doing it in a productive fashion. I am into kickboxing as well.
Mm.
I got into martial arts when I was late teens, early 20s, and I've talked about it on here before for a long time, about 20 years. I did nothing with it. I let it go by for this excuse, that excuse. And it was something that it was lingering in me for so long. And it was something that I knew I wanted to get back into, but I let my own inner demons get the better of me and I talked myself out of it for so long. And I got to give, again, another shout out to NCK Bellingham, Steve and Mindy over there. Um, Steve got me off the sidelines. I got our kids are into karate and I was taking them to class all the time. And then Steve has his kickboxing class during one of those. And a few of the times, probably like 3 or 4 times, he's like, so when are you gonna get out here and do it? And, for a while I was like, oh, I don't know, this and that. And then I forget what it was. I said, yeah, I'm not in that shape anymore. And he goes, well, that's what the class is for, to get you in shape. And I was like, you you make it sound so simple. It's like, you know what? I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try. I'll get back off the sidelines and see what happens. And after that very first class, I was like, oh man, the feeling that I got, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, it was my therapy. It was something that I knew I needed it, but I didn't realize how much I needed it until I got back into it. Being able to move in that way, move my body, being able to hit things. I know it sounds silly, but for anybody
Mm.
out there, if you are able to hit something in a productive fashion, not a person like you said, if you're able to hit a bag, move your arms like that, it gives you such a release and a feeling, a dopamine, a real dopamine, not false dopamines of like scrolling or liking things or whatever, a real dopamine hit that lasts
Yeah.
for a long time. It is a game changer. And I encourage anybody out there, everybody that's listening, do something physical with yourself. It doesn't have to be punching and kicking and stuff like that. But if you are able to do it, I'm telling you, it makes such a difference. And I love that when you said that, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to bring up during this conversation. So I thought that that was
Yeah.
huge.
Shout out to Tidal Boxing Club in Lakewood, Colorado.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
L Love that place. Yeah, like, I think it's important because, there's so much energy, like, in the body, and it has to come out some way,
A
and
100%.
so, yay for productivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stacy, thank you so much for coming on and being so open and honest and vulnerable. I think that's a huge thing that more people need to explore within themselves. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel the things that you're feeling, and it helps so much to be able to just open up and talk about it. And you leading the charge firsthand and helping kids in the way that you are, I think that that's huge. Again, I commend you for the work that you're doing. Um, I want to let people know about you again, about your book. If you could hold it up one more time, so people can see it. I want so they'll recognize it when they go looking for it. I love the cover. I love the colors. I think that's huge.
Thank you. I
Uh,
have a little butterfly. Butterflies are my jam.
that's so cool. I love that you put yourself into it. Purple's your color, butterflies are your jam. You know, you can tell that it's really you really put yourself into it, and I think that says a lot. And again, you did the audio for it too. I think that that's huge. You're really putting a piece of yourself into your work, and I absolutely love it. I love your mindset towards these things. I love the energy that you exude. It's very addictive. It's very contagious. I love it. So for those looking to find that book, go find Stacy's book with Love from a Children's Therapist. I love the title. You can check her website out, stacyschaefer.com, and follow her on Instagram if you're interested at Hope Restored, which is another name that I absolutely love. I love everything that you have going on. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for coming on here and sharing everything that you did with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.